The regular meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment for July 7, 2016 will now come to order. Clerk call the roll.
Russo.
Yeah. Here.
Giordano.
Here.
Mafucci.
Here.
Montalbano.
Here.
Sheldon.
Here.
Milano.
Yeah.
Bill Berkshire.
Here. Will everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Secretary, has notice of this meeting been given in accordance with the Sunshine Law?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, notice of this meeting has been given to the press and the public in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act.
Okay. What should we do first?
Chairman.
No, I'm talking about the organization. Swear it in. Swear it in first. Swear it in first. Mr. Caruso.
John, can you stand up, please? Raise your right hand and read out or recite after me. I, and state your name,
I, John Caruso,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
and I will bear true faith and allegiance
and to the governments established in the United States
to the government established in the United States
and in this state
and this state
under the authority of the people.
under the authority of the people.
I, and state your name,
I, John Caruso,
do further solemnly swear
do further solemnly swear
that I will faithfully,
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly
justly
perform all the
perform
duties
the duty
of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment
of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. 4 more years. Okay. The other 2 members are not here. If they show up, we'll swear them in. That is Mr. Smith and Mr. Casa, I believe is the name. Kessa. Yeah, let's get that.
All right, with regard to the reorganization, first order of business would be any nominations for chairman of the board, and after that is taken care of, I will relinquish obviously to the chair. Are there any nominations?
Motion to nominate Jerry.
Any other nominations? Hearing none, seeing none, close it.
So let's get it right. Lily nominated.
I nominate you.
And
Second.
Mr. Caruso seconded.
Right.
So there's no confusion.
And there are no other nominations, so we'll take a roll call vote on Jerry for chairman.
Hold on 1 minute. Your name, sir? At the end.
Chris, you.
Chris Casa.
Come on up. Come on up. Let's hold the roll up.
I'm sorry, I ran a little late.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
Sit right next to the chairman.
I want to swear you in.
Why don't we introduce,
This is a new alternate member 2 that's been appointed by the council.
big time, Mr. Chairman?
Nice to meet you. Chris Casa. Matt, swear me.
Why don't you stand up for a minute? This is normal. You could hold that, raise your right hand, and follow after me. Why don't you read that? I, and then state your name.
I, Chris Casa, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people.
Continue.
I, Chris Casa, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment according to my best abilities, so help me God.
Fantastic. Okay. You can sign that, please. Also.
Now we have a motion and a seconded on the table. The clerk was gonna call the roll.
Caruso.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mafucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
You can't vote for yourself.
I abstain.
Kessel.
No,
No, it's
7.
seven.
He's the 8th. Only
You're
7
not
can vote.
voting, so you would be 7.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
No,
He
if you
was in here.
abstain,
He was in here.
only 7.
Okay.
If you abstain, that's your 7. That's a 7.
It's probably,
Good.
that's usually how it's done.
You don't even know what he thought.
So it's 6-0. All right, the vote is 6-0, 1 abstention.
Okay. All right then. The next position would be for the vice chairmanship, and I would, you want to do the nomination? I'll let you do it.
Bully.
Willie Milano?
Yes.
I second the motion. Clerk, call the roll. Any other nominations? No other nominations, okay. Clerk,
7
call the roll.
members.
All right. Caruso.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mafucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Milano.
No part.
Del Garcia.
Yes.
Is that, how many total votes?
You missed one, I think.
Sheldon.
I think Mike.
Yes, a big yes.
You missed it.
Back to 6-1.
Same rate of pay.
Yes.
Okay. The next position is secretary. I nominate Michelle Dalbo.
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Caruso. Clerk, any other opening nominations for secretary? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Caruso.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mafucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Next on the agenda is our town engineer planner, Mr. Herritz,
I nominate Mr. Harris.
nominated by Mr. Milano, seconded by, who seconded?
I'll second.
Giordano seconded. Put his hand up first. Clerk, any other nominations for engineer or planner? None. Okay, clerk, call the roll, please.
Caruso.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mafucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And now our reporter, Michelle Quick,
Nominate Michelle Quick.
Make a motion.
seconded by Mr. Caruso. Made by Mr. Milano, seconded by Mr. Caruso. Any other nominations? Seeing none, clerk, call the roll.
Caruso.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mafucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Any other positions? I want to make sure I don't miss
Yeah,
it.
the attorney.
The attorney.
The attorney, not you. Oh, Mr. Rago, come last. I will nominate Mr. Rago.
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Mafucci. Any other nominations for attorney of the board? None. Well, clerk, please call the roll.
Caruso.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Mafucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes,
Thank you.
we're good. I think we have everything. All right. Yeah, did we do newspapers?
I think the town selects that.
What?
I think the town
I think
selects.
the town
does
The clerk makes the official.
Okay.
That's right. We don't do that.
Yeah, we don't do that. The only thing I do is these meeting schedule that doesn't define service.
And we don't nominate Mr. Di Lorenzo.
No,
He's
it's
standing,
Well, it's
although
official.
I was at a certain meeting where he wasn't being nominated by somebody. I won't say what, who did it or what.
But he's an official.
Yes, he's an official, he's a town official. He's steady, he's civil service protected. Okay, now, what's the next step of the agenda? I assume would be applications for, oh no, wait a minute, we have to do the minutes. Let's do the minutes first. Because we can hold off on the minutes until we had everybody sworn in. Okay, I've only made one change to the minutes, and that is with ZB 2015-29 below it. Motion to approve the May minutes made by Caruso, seconded by Mafucci. Approved 8 to nothing. It can only be 7 officially. We can only have 7 votes. We can't have 8 votes. Okay, that's the only amendment. Any other amendments by anybody that you saw anything? So you're questioning?
Just one question. It's in the following paragraph, it says the following case was heard and vote to bifurcate the proposal from 6 to 4. I think at the end of the meeting, wasn't the
He
bifurcation taken
He
all back?
withdrew that,
It was
yes.
just taken off.
Okay.
So they're
Yeah.
not, they decided to come in with a new application.
Okay.
Okay. So that's another amendment to it. That the bifurcation, although it was agreed upon, was then canceled by the applicant's attorney.
Right.
Okay. So, all right. Any other changes to the minutes? None? May I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended? Motion by Mr. Caruso. Do I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Montalbano. I want to give everybody a chance. Clerk, call the roll.
Caruso,
Yes.
Giordano,
Yes.
Lefucci,
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Valano. Del
Yes.
Garcia.
Yes. Okay, applications for adjournment. We have two applications for adjournment, and I will do them in the order they are on the agenda. The first case on the agenda, ZB 2015-32. That is a continuation of a certification for a non-conforming use. That is Caratonis Realty Limited Liability Corporation at 318-320 Portland Street. Letter dated July 7th, today, to Michelle Dalbo, in relation to this, block 8803, lot 8, Ms. Dalbo. I am writing to respectfully request an adjournment with regard to the above captioned matter. We are requesting that the Caratonis Realty Limited Liability Corporation application scheduled to be heard at the July 7th, 2016 meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment be adjourned until the next regularly scheduled meeting date of August 4th, 2016. The applicant is seeking the present adjournment due to the fact that while they have a new prospective tenant for the property and have identified their proposed use to the Belleville zoning officer, Frank DiLorenzo, Mr. DiLorenzo has not had adequate time to provide his opinion as to whether the proposed use tenants of the property should be permitted. Considering the same, we are requesting this further adjournment so that we may present to the board an application with an identified tenant and Mr. DiLorenzo's determination regarding their specific use proposed. As this application was originally heard at the February 4th, 2016 meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment, legal notice has already been mailed to property owners within 200 feet of the subject property and published in the Belleville Times newspaper, indicating the February 4, 2016 hearing date. Proofs of the same were submitted to your attention on February 1st, 2016. With this in mind, we respectfully request the Chairman of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment permit the adjournment of this matter to the August 4, 2016 meeting without further notice or appearance on behalf of the applicant being required. In consideration of this adjournment request, the applicant agrees to suspend any and all applicable time limits for municipal action for the duration of the adjournment requested. Thank you in advance for your time and assistance in this matter. Of course, should you have any questions or need any additional information, please do not hesitate to contact this office. With regards, Michael J. Paramali, Esquire. Now, there's only one question I have on this. Number one, he's waiving the time limits, but we don't even know what we're hearing yet. That's number one. Number two, depending upon what type of tenant this is, and what would be the basis for Mr. DiLorenzo's approval. If he approves, we don't have to hear it, period. It's a dismissed case. If he doesn't approve it, then if it's different from what was originally published, he would have to republish and renotice. Am I right, Mr. Rago?
I would think so. This is also getting a little stale. I think it's been on the agenda for a while.
Since February.
Yeah, so it depending on what they come in with, if Frank doesn't okay it when they come here, then it might be that they would be on safer ground to renotice.
but they're requesting not to renotice. So depending upon how we vote tonight, we have to decide how we want to handle this. Because if we adjourn it and tell them they don't have to renotice, I think we should send them a letter, or you should send them a letter. Well, first, Frank, you already got what the new use is going to be for,
I got something, yes, the other day.
but you haven't made a decision
No,
yet.
I'm gathering some information.
Okay, when you make a decision, can you send Mr. Rego a copy of any approval or denial letter? And the same letter, in other words, you sent to the applicant, please. And then he could call them and tell them whether he feels they should have to renotice. Yes, Mr.
Yeah, so in fairness to Frank,
Yeah.
would it be better that we not say that they're adjourned to next meeting, right? We should say if Mr. Di Lorenzo feels it should come back, it should come back September in case they need to renotice. Because they need to renotice, why are we using agenda?
But he hasn't requested that, and I don't know how he's having time restraints on something we don't even know what we're doing. That's my
Just
question.
so long as, if we adjourn it, it's gotta be to a date certain,
Right,
but they still may have to renotice if they're coming in with something totally different.
Right,
Frank
but I'm
doesn't feel
saying-
comfortable.
and I'm saying, if this is July 7th, so,
Yes, but my point is he's specifically only requesting till August 4th.
You can always adjourn further.
Yeah, he can adjourn further, that's what we'll do. And if we decide, or if Mr. Rego decides.
I'm not arguing, I disagree, but you want to do what you do.
No, it's not that, it's that's all he's requesting. I can't adjourn something further than what he
Determination by
requests.
next week. The determination by next week.
So we'll know well prior to the 4th of
Oh,
August if they
absolutely.
gotta renotice.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's what we're doing. All right. So, I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do we need a motion?
Not the meeting.
No, adjourn the case, I'm sorry. After having all this confusion, I mean,
Make a motion to adjourn that case.
adjourn the case to August 4th, 2016, with the provision that Mr. Di Lorenzo will send a copy of whatever notice he decides, or whatever decision he decides to both the claimant and our attorney, and then our attorney will get in contact with the claimant if there's a denial, and tell him whether he has to renotice or not.
Sounds good.
Does that sound good? Okay, second, do I have a second?
Yes, second.
Seconded by Mr. Montalbano. Clerk, call the roll.
Yeah.
Gotta call your name first.
Caruso,
Yeah.
Giordano,
Yes.
Calucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Sheldon.
Yes.
Solano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes, and now the second case on the agenda, ZB 2015-34, that is also a continued case. That was a notice sent today to Ms. Dalbo by Gassion and Pomaco Law Firm. That's Rosalita Dilalia, 2729 King Street, Block 8403, lots 1 and 2. Ms. Dalbo, I am writing to respectfully request an adjournment with regard to the above captioned matter. We are requesting that the application for 2729 King Street, scheduled to be heard at the July 7, 2016 meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment, be adjourned until the next regularly scheduled meeting date of August 4th, 2016. The applicant is seeking this adjournment due to the need to provide revised plans reducing the number of residential units proposed. Unfortunately, the revised plans were not completed in time to submit to the July 7, 2016 meeting. As this application was originally scheduled to be heard at the March 3rd, 2016 meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment, legal notice has already been mailed to property owners within 200 feet of the subject property and published in the Belleville Times newspaper, indicating the March 3rd, 2016 hearing date. Proofs of the same have been submitted. With this in mind, we are respectfully requesting the chairman of this Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment permit the adjournment of this matter to the August 4, 2016 meeting without further notice or appearance on behalf of the applicant being required. In consideration of this adjournment request, the applicant agrees to suspend any and all applicable time limits for municipal action for the duration of the adjournment requested. Thank you in advance for your time and assistance in this matter. Of course, should you have any questions or need any additional information, please do not hesitate to contact this office. Again, with regards, Michael J. Palomeri, Malley, Esquire. I can never say these words right, I'm a Palomari. Okay. This one here would not need a vote for one simple reason. This was heard last month, and it was agreed that they would come back with new plans, and they are downsizing. So downsizing automatically does not require new notice. So unless there's opposition by the board, I will adjourn this to August. Yes, Mr.
One question.
Yes.
Frankie, have you received the plans yet? We just don't have the reports?
No, Tommy and I haven't received anything.
Okay, could be a question of timing on that.
Well, okay, so, with no opposition, anyone in the audience who's interested in this case, there will be no further notices either in the newspaper or in the mail, and the case will be adjourned to August 4, 2016. Now, the third case on the agenda tonight, which we're probably going to hear. Okay. That is ZB 2016-03, 164 Mill Street, Tabarada. Applicant is proposing to demolish the existing dwelling and construct a new two-family dwelling. Yes, sir.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Kenneth J. Lindenfelsen on behalf of the applicant George Kubota. I have my offices in Kearney, New Jersey. I have some documentation regarding the mailings and the publication.
Hand them to Mr. Ray, or to the clerk, she'll give them to Mr. Ray.
I'll need the green ones.
Okay.
Okay.
I have the original. I emailed you, Mr. Rego, the
Yes.
proof of publication, but I have the original.
All right, and the actual notice is, I see.
You want the original proof of publication?
Yes, please. Appears to be in order. Okay. Thank you. We can proceed. Show that A1.
A1.
Just a brief overview before I start. This is an existing one-family house on Mill Street that's in a fairly run-down condition. It is a two-family zone. My client purchased it and is looking to erect a two-family house providing for sufficient off-street parking as required. The proposed dwelling is only in violation due to bulk requirements, side yards, front yards, lot area, lot coverage. So there's no D variance involved, just to see bulk variances. If there's no questions, I'll start with the testimony from the applicant.
What's your game plan in terms of who you intend to call?
The applicant and the architect who is handling the project.
Is she also a planner?
Yes. She is.
Okay.
Okay, should we testify this? Oh, should we testify this?
Yes, for mostly about the project, but she'll also talk about the impact on the neighborhood and how the project would fit in and flow with the neighborhood.
Okay. Call your first witness, please.
All right, I'll call Mr. Kubota.
Good evening, everybody.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Would you state your name and spell your last name, please?
George Kubota, Taboada.
Thank you.
Address? I didn't hear the address.
Your address? 54 East Brook Terrace, Livingston, New Jersey.
All right, Mr. Kubota, are you the owner of 164 Mill Street here in Belleville?
Yes.
when did you purchase that property?
Approximately about a year ago.
And why were you looking to purchase the property?
I was looking to purchase a property. I have a situation with my mother-in-law. She's an elderly lady. Wanted to get her, a house where she can live in, decent house.
And when you found Mill Street, you thought this might suit your purposes?
Yes, absolutely.
In order to have it fit your purposes, what was decided that you needed to do to the property?
Well, a lot of work. That property needed a lot of work. Would require a lot of money. It's in worse condition than what I thought it was when I initially purchased it. After talking to contractors and back and forth, and I was going to be upside down with the house. I was going to invest more money than really what the property would be worth in the long run. So I reconsidered, and I figured, okay, maybe after talking to some contractors, probably a two-family house would be the best way to go.
You lost me there.
What's that?
You lost me there.
Well,
So is it for your mother-in-law or is it an investment? Which is it?
Well, it's for my mother-in-law.
Oh, okay, so whether it's upside down or not is irrelevant.
Well, I mean, I don't want to also put money into a property where eventually, in the long run, I'm going to be upside down,
so if
That's
you're...
not the town's issue though.
Right.
That's correct.
So let me ask you a question, if I may, to your question.
Yes.
Did you have an engineer's report when you bought it?
No.
Why not? Why not?
An engineer's report?
Yeah, I mean an inspection.
No, I mean, I looked at it and I figured, okay, maybe I can, I kind of figured, it cost me X amount of dollars.
Sure.
And then after talking to, some contractors, some structural issues there, and it was going to cost me more than what I thought.
But your primary focus is to find a safe residence for your mother.
Yeah,
Right.
well, primarily, yeah.
Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
And there's also true that your mother-in-law is going to need someone to assist her,
Yes.
and that's where the second apartment would come in.
Correct. Yeah. And that's my sister-in-law. She would care for her.
Is she married?
No.
Sister-in-law's not married.
Right. Correct.
Okay. So why can't you live in the same apartment?
Yeah, same house.
Well, I guess they want their independence. Well,
Well, then
she's
she
not
should be
married,
taking
but she
care
has
of
children.
Oh, she has children?
Yeah, yes, correct.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to show you a photo that I marked, I guess applicant's exhibit B.
A2. Applicant A2.
There, I'll mark it A2.
A1 was the notice.
Right. Thank you. A2. Do you recognize that photo?
Yes,
Is that 164 Mill Street?
yes.
Does that photo show the condition of the property as it currently stands?
Yes.
I'd like to publish that to the board.
And this picture was taken when, approximately?
1 month ago,
A month ago.
the day before the last scheduled hearing.
Yeah, I've been there, that's exactly what it was.
In order to get the house into a condition where it would suit your needs and get the work done, what step did you take to hire professionals to start that process?
Well, I hired a consultant with Chris, who's an architect,
And that is Miss
Chris Maseo.
Maseo,
Right.
and she's here tonight.
Yes.
Did you retain her to make plans for
Yes, I
the
did.
house?
Yes.
And are those the plans that have been submitted to the board?
Yes.
I trust all the board members have copies of the plans.
Yes.
I want to talk, you had this picture. So am I supposed to determine from this picture that what his testimony just said, that this is not being able to be rehabbed by this picture?
It's just to show the condition of the property as it currently stands.
Okay, I'm asking you, what does it show? And I'm supposed to know.
Well, that's just from the street, but you gotta look at it inside.
I know, that's why I'm asking the
Can I,
question. you introduced the picture to me,
Right.
and you want me to deduce something from it, correct, Counselor?
I want you to observe the condition that the house currently is.
Okay, let's find the meat on the outside.
It's currently, it is
Okay.
outside.
All
But,
right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, I'll pick up on your lead. The photo that was introduced shows, of course, only the outside of the
Correct.
house. And does it appear to you, in your opinion, to appear to be in somewhat disrepair from the outside?
It does, yeah. That's,
From that picture,
oh, yeah.
could you give the client back the picture and show me
I
what
have
it's
another
got?
copy. I have another copy.
I'll take the picture back.
I have another copy.
I wanna know
They're looking at it.
what he's speaking
Around
of,
this
so
side now.
I can figure that out.
I mean, this picture, you know, it's only one dimensional, really. I mean, it's
I
only.
agree, I don't disagree with you.
Exactly.
So
You
you're
gotta
asking
look,
me
you
to
gotta go in the
determine-
back, you gotta look, you know, you gotta go downstairs in the basement, you gotta look at.
I don't disagree.
I mean, the whole
But
thing
you
is,
had-
you can actually,
Your attorney asked me to
You have a
deduce from
picture of
that
the back?
picture that
I
the
don't-
house
well-
is in a state of disrepair. And I'm saying, from that picture, I don't get that determination. Now, if you gave me pictures like you're speaking of,
Right.
of the basement, of the walls inside, things like that, I understand.
right,
But you introduced the picture to me, and I have to be quite frank with you, it's insulting to think that I'm gonna think that the house is beyond disrepair from that picture.
Wasn't my intention to be insulting.
But that's what he's testifying to.
Okay. Well,
Am I right?
he's testifying, this is what the house looks like. It does, in his opinion, it doesn't look too good. He's planning to make
And
it
I'm
look,
asking him,
he's trying
just
to make
tell
it
me
look
what he
nice.
thinks.
see, this is the reason why, because you look at this house, you think it's a decent house. But, you know,
Okay, thank
right, you look at the house, but it's not, and that's how I bought the house.
It just
You know,
said to me,
saying, okay, you know, it doesn't look like a
he
bad
just said,
house.
contradict me, and it looks like a decent house. I believe him.
Right,
It does look like a decent house.
I mean, it doesn't, it looks like
I
a,
guess it's opinion.
right.
Well, so his opinion and my opinion.
But
we
from
agree.
the
Different than mine, huh?
From the picture,
But
is
you're,
what I'm saying.
you're not testifying,
That's
right?
right, he's the testifier.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want to elaborate on any major conditions?
Can I ask a question because of all this that came up? Didn't you go look at this property before you bought it?
Oh, I did. Yeah.
So if you felt it couldn't be repaired, that you would need to knock it down and build another house, why would you buy it?
No, I didn't think I had to knock it down. I bought it, you know, and I figured,
How did you
okay.
buy this property? Was it listed?
So,
No, it was
foreclosure.
foreclosure.
Right.
It was a foreclosure. You bought it to a bank,
Yes.
and then you didn't ask to look at the house and go into the
Oh,
house
I
before
did,
you
I
bought
did.
it? So you went in the house and looked at it? You went in the
Right.
basement and everything?
Yeah.
Right. So
Oh,
you,
okay.
Yeah, and I figured, okay, it could be, you know, it could be fixed up, you know.
But you
But
didn't,
then after
but you
talking
didn't
to
have any,
contractors.
you didn't have any experts come over to look at it first
no,
before you
he
bought it?
said no.
No.
Okay.
But if I may follow up on that, Counselor, to my previous question, right? He said he's knocking it down because he's putting his mother-in-law and he wants a safe home for her. I agree with that, right? But now, you're saying to us, but I want a two-family. Well, why didn't you buy a two-family for your mother-in-law?
I agree.
You bought a one-family.
Well, in a two-family zone.
Counselor, that's not an application, okay? His rationale and his testimony was, he was buying a home, and he bought a one-family home, knowing it was a one-family home, right? To make a safe house, okay? Now your testimony is that he needs to have his sister-in-law live in there, and that's why he needs a two-family.
Well, that's my intention. That's,
I
you know,
understand
that's my
that, that's your
intention.
intention now.
Right.
That wasn't your intention when you bought it, because you bought a one-family.
May I follow up with some questions?
You can follow up what you want, I'm only asking you,
I
is
understand.
what you
No,
testified.
I want you to be clear.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Mr. Kubota, once you got into the property and had contractors look at it and became aware of the exact condition of the property, what was required, did you reassess how you could use the property to best suit your needs?
Yes.
And is that how you came to hire the architect and consult with an architect?
Right,
And
exactly.
came up with different options about how the house could best be used?
Exactly.
And was that where the decision was made to then try to make it a two-family?
Make it a two-family, right. Keep my mother-in-law on one floor, one apartment. Keep my sister-in-law and her kids in the other apartment. You know, mean, it's,
Can I ask you a question there?
yes.
Does your mother need 3 bedrooms to live in?
No, but,
You have 2, 3 bedrooms on these plans. So your mother is gonna sleep in 3 different bedrooms?
well, I can't do 3 bedrooms downstairs and, you know, I mean,
Well, explain
Like
this
2
to me,
bedrooms
because this is very confusing. You also said your sister-in-law, I believe, has 3 children.
yes.
So if she has 3 children, you only have 3 bedrooms in her apartment. I mean, none of the
one of
testimony
the
you're
kids
giving
would
makes
live
any
upstairs.
sense.
One of the kids can, you know, figure, you know, it's-
Well, then there's no privacy, is there?
well, I mean, it's family,
Listen,
you know how family is.
listen to me. I know what family is. I also know what mother-daughters are, where that's family. So it's a one family, but because it's a mother and daughter, they're allowed to live there, okay? Even though legally it's only a one
We
family.
don't have such
But
thing.
you want a legal 2-family here, okay? It's a totally different story.
I suggest we let.
None of your testimony makes any sense
Mr.
whatsoever.
Chairman,
Yes.
I suggest we let him put his case in. Let him continue with his case. You made your point.
Okay.
Let him put his case on. I understand what he's saying. I have to be honest with you, counsel. It's very contradictory to me, and I'm not gonna lie to you with it. Because I agree with you on a lot of stuff, but I disagree with you on some other, as I was very candid, I tell you. You know, I agree that from the outside, you can't tell, you cannot tell, it's a bad looking house.
Well, from the
Mr.
picture,
Milano, do you
from the
want to let
picture,
him finish his testimony?
yeah. The thing is, from the picture you can't tell, but it, you know, that's only one picture. And, you know, I apologize if we didn't present more pictures to be more clear.
Okay,
But then, I mean, the house really is in bad condition. I mean, that's, I mean, I can't say anything else. My intention was to get my mother-in-law in there, and then after talking, I know we kind of figured out, you know, it would be best to do it that way.
I got you. Thank you.
I just want to keep everybody in mind, this is a C variance application, not a use variance application. It's bulk variance applications. We have to prove certain criteria, we have to prove that we have unusual circumstances and hardships that are created by the size and the shape of the property.
You also
You created your own
realize,
hardships.
do you also realize that this don't even meet the minimum requirements for a one-family house? This lot?
That's correct. But
Okay,
that's
I want to
also-
make sure you realize that.
Look, and that's what the hardship variance
The
is.
hardship would be if you can't build anything.
Well, the hardship would be if due to the size of the property, the configuration of the property, which is all pre-existing before Mr. Kubota bought it.
Agreed.
The town had grandfathered in, I suppose, it must have been built before the zoning.
Zoning was way different. than-
What?
The zoning has changed since 1959, all the way up to the 70s and the 80s, so
Right,
it's
well,
changed quite a few times.
Right. So when this house was built, I suppose that it would, they got permits that it was legal at the time it
At
was
that
built.
time, I'm sure it was.
And then the laws changed, and
Right.
you have situations where
So-
houses that are built today would not be allowed.
Agreed. So, to your point, so what the chairman was trying to explain to you was that in today's code, right, a one family would not even be allowed there.
That's correct.
Right. But you don't care about that. You're gonna jump straight to a 2-family, right?
Well, because
Now, answer the question, counsel. Let's be fair.
I'll be as honest with you as I can.
I'm waiting for it. Just tell me that, because your testimony has kind of morphed 3 different times.
I don't have any testimony. My
Well, you
client's
started to.
testimony. I'm not under oath, I'm not testifying.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm just telling you that, as our chairman explained to you,
Yeah,
that a one family would not even be allowed there.
that's
And we
correct.
would not do that, we would not prohibit you to put a one family back. You know that already, right? We
Of
can't.
course,
We
of
can't
course.
prohibit you. You know that, right?
Well,
We can,
I would still have to be here for variances
right, but you.
because the house is not conforming.
But
The
we
lot is not.
would not prohibit you, because you would have a case then, because we cannot allow you not to build nothing. We can't make a lot unbuildable.
Not only that, he'd be replacing a 1 with a 1.
Right, so,
Right.
you
But
understand?
and Mr. Rego, you correct me if I'm wrong, the consideration of the use, where it's a permitted use, is not a reason to deny an application.
No, we're not saying that's the reason. We're just saying that a 1 is what is more suited than a 2. That's what we're saying.
Yeah, and if this was a use application, that would be irrelevant.
So then everyone can come in and knock down one family and put in two families.
In two-family zones
Right.
where they are permitted, and they have a hardship whereby the lot cannot be made to be conforming. And Mr. Rego, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
All I can say is that you're requesting, first I think you should put your case in.
Right.
A full case. What you're requesting is a two-family on an undersized lot. And what I'm hearing is that it would be, if this was vacant, this wouldn't even meet the criteria for one family in terms of bulk, but, as Mr. Milano said, to deny any applicant the right to use the lot would be troublesome
Right.
from a legal standpoint. What Mr. Villano's point is that understanding that, you're going from, to a two. So that's, and even though it's zoned for two-family, we have to face the facts, which I'm sure your planner will get into, that it's a small lot, and there are a number of bulk variances, relatively speaking, for the bulk lot. The other issue I have, which hasn't come up yet, is I know your client's been stressing that one floor, one apartment would be for his mother-in-law, and one apartment for the sister-in-law with kids. I would think we would be on very shaky ground, because we grant variances to the property, not to the occupants of the property. So if your point is we're going to restrict this to those two family units, that would be extremely difficult to enforce, and I don't know if it'd be legal. Then they could move out next month, and there'd be two other people,
Correct.
two other families in there.
Once the board grants a permission, it would go with the property.
Right. So the argument being made now,
will change at
the
some point.
argument being made now is, you know, a heartthrob argument. We got the mother-in-law, we got the sister-in-law upstairs taking care of her, but that only goes so far. I mean, we could not restrict it to that legally. It would be a two-family, and whoever wanted to rent or two-family, your mother-in-law may not want to be there. She may become very ill, and the sister-in-law may not want to live there. So that's a shaky argument.
People pass away.
I know.
You know,
Okay.
things happen, they get older, and
As she
and
gets,
change.
older, maybe she'll have to eventually move, in with my
So,
sister-in-law.
but the point is that argument, that we're going to have family there, only goes so far. Because we can't restrict it to that, we
Right.
could, for anyone.
And with all due respect, but that wasn't even the original testimony. The testimony was he bought a one family for his mother-in-law, nothing about the sister-in-law. It was an afterthought when it became, the fact that the matter became that it was too expensive, and I understand his point, to rehab, it's better off knocking it down. I agree with that logic, so I don't want to tell you I disagree with everything he said. I don't. His logic makes sense. But that
Also, there's
wasn't,
one other factor here. In a two-family zone, you're also allowed to put a one-family. Both are allowed in a two-family zone.
Correct.
Okay. So I would finish, let him finish his
Yeah.
testimony.
I'm done.
And then we
I
can
just wanted to get the whole picture.
Yeah, and it wasn't our intent to say that's why the board should grant this. Council's correct, that in the event, if you grant a variance to allow this, there's no
Two-family is a
control later
two-family.
on. People move, people die, people change
I
their
mean, that's
plans.
my intention, though.
But
No, I know.
we
And
just
it's
wanted
just
to
fine.
let the board know how it came about that he purchased this property and how it came about that he had to change his plans.
But you,
That's all, just so you had some
Gotcha.
background.
yeah.
That's not what our
Okay.
reasons, okay. If there's any other questions for Mr. Kubota, otherwise I would call my architect planner.
Thank you.
Well, I think I have one final question since you've done this testimony. You bought this for your mother, correct?
Well, that's the
As a one
intention of putting her in a better place, yeah.
All right, so
She helped
you
raise
knew-
my kids.
You knew how much space was there already, and you knew how many bedrooms there was in the existing house already when you bought it?
Correct.
Okay. Want to get that on the record?
No, he was honest. He said that.
Does the public have any questions of this applicant?
Based on this testimony.
Based on his testimony, come on up, please, because we have everything being televised, so we want to see who's giving the statement, besides having your name. Right here, come on up.
This
Come on, so we
is,
can see
I want
it.
to tell the applicant, this is normal. The public has a right
Sure.
to ask you
Questions.
questions as to what you just testified.
Okay. Name and address first, please.
Vincent Frantantoni, 129 Mount Prospect, Belleville. I think you answered the gentleman, you did not hire a home inspector when you bought it.
No, I did not.
All right. We have an ordinance in town. Did you get the building department to close? You have to get an inspection. CO. Did you get
Yes,
that?
yes,
inspection?
yes.
Did that inspection find any health problems or structural or code problems? Did you pass that inspection?
Well, the inspection, no, because our intention was, to rehab the house. And, we explained that to the building department, and they held off on the CO. They granted us, I believe it was a temporary CO. Yeah. And that's,
The conditional CO.
right, it was a conditional CO.
Did that state the findings that they found?
No, not as far as I know. I mean, they looked at it, and we told them, they realized that, the house needed to be,
The town didn't inspect them prior to closing, that's what it required. So you were aware that there was problems?
right, yeah, I mean, it's obvious, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Can I swear in Mr. Di Lorenzo, please, because this came into the issue?
With regard to this application, Frank, do you swear that your testimony will be the true self you got?
Yes, I do.
The record is Frank Di Lorenzo, zoning officer, Belleville.
Frank, what is the situation with the CO with this property? How did he approach you? What did he ask?
Well, he didn't approach me, they probably approached the girls first, and then my inspector went out and did an inspection, and we gave him a conditional, because the house was probably a mess.
All right, so he got a conditional,
Right,
and that means he would rehabilitate the property, is that what we're saying?
correct, you have to fix
Before
it.
anybody can move in.
Right, before he can move in.
That's as far as it went at the time. How far after that did he ask to come for approval to knock it down and build a two-family?
I don't know, whatever's on my letter, in October of last year.
Okay. Yes, October 21st, 2015. And that is approximately 6 months after you bought the property.
Approximately, yes.
Approximately. 5 months.
Right.
Because I believe you bought it, according to the records here, 5/28/15? Is that about right?
It's about right.
Okay.
That's correct.
All right. And you bought it as a foreclosure, you said?
Correct.
All right.
Any other questions for?
No, unless there's other questions by members of the public. None, seeing none, you can call your next witness.
All right.
Thank you.
I call Christine Paseo, architect and planner.
I expect you to be done so quick, you caught me on the phone.
Could you raise your right hand, please, with regard to this application? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give should be the true self you got?
Yes,
Just state your name and spell your last name, please.
sure, Christine L. Maseo, M-I-S-E-O.
Were you going to qualify her as both an architect and a planner?
Yes.
Okay.
I haven't been before this board in probably 20-some years, so it's been a while, so let me give you my qualifications. I'm a licensed architect and planner in the state of New Jersey. I received my degree, Bachelor of Architecture from Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago. I received my first architecture license in Illinois when I lived there. I'm from the Chicago area. Then New York a couple years later, and I believe I received my New Jersey license in 1986. I was trying to go through that in my mind, but it's been a while that I've had it, so I've been before a number of boards. I'm also a licensed planner in the state of New Jersey, and I got that planning license, I believe, about 20 years ago when the state said, architects, quick, get it in before you have to take a test.
You were grandfathered.
Yes, I was grandfathered. I have been before many boards, in the state of New Jersey. I sat on the planning board in Livingston for a number of years, so I do understand the procedure and what's going on. Do you have any questions?
I have two questions.
Go ahead.
First question, let's talk about your architecture. Which board, give us a few boards that you might have appeared in front of. in the
Last
city.
Tuesday, I was before the Livingston board. The month before that, I was in Short Hills.
Anything in Essex County?
Well, both of
Both of
those.
us.
Yeah, that's true. Let me say, unless a fluent Essex.
I do a lot of work in Nutley and Belleville, and
I've
I
never
just
seen
don't
it.
happen to go before the board so much.
Okay. How about in your planning side?
Planners, the same, both Livingston and Short Hills, I've been qualified as planners West Orange. I got Montclair, I'm doing another two-family house in Montclair, I'm doing a two-family,
As an architect or a planner?
both.
Okay.
And also in Short Hills, or I should say Milburn, the poor end of Short Hills.
Yeah.
In Milburn, I'm doing a two-family also.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have any. I think we should agree to her as an expert.
Yes, she's an expert.
Okay, no
Thank
problem.
you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Niesa, would you just discuss the proposed project for 164 Mill Street?
Do you mind if I put the board up here and then
No, that's
people from the
perfect.
audience will be
That's
able to
perfect.
see it also?
I do want to ask you one question before we get started.
Yes,
Did you examine the current property?
yes.
You did.
I did not go inside the house though, so I would not be able to testify to the,
So you don't know how many bedrooms are currently in that house?
Or the condition, like Ms. Tessa.
that's what I say, I can't testify to the condition on the inside. I did not go inside.
Like the photo?
Okay.
So you don't know the
I
condition
mean,
of the house?
I
as
would,
was
walked the
previously
property, went up and down the neighborhood, took a look at what was in the neighborhood, but I did not go into the building.
Ms. Masseo, is that board an exact copy of what the board has?
Looks like.
Other than what I'm going to testify to, which I was able to get the square footages of the lots adjacent to our property, that I can testify to the sizes of the lots that are also undersized that have multifamily
Oh,
on them.
man, that's not an issue here.
No, but is that,
That's irrelevant.
have you added anything?
Yes, that's what I added, that's what I'm
Then
saying.
let's mark that A3, please, because that's different, slightly different than what we have. So A3, you may want to bring it closer.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that the,
There's a tripod.
thank you, I've got my helper.
There's a tripod that the gentleman's going to go.
So
Yeah,
A3
we tried.
is sheet 1.
The other sheets were not changed,
Okay.
and today's the 7th?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Perfect. Well, it's the same thing, yes, and I'll just testify to the numbers.
I'd rather the audience see it anyway.
Yeah, it's perfect.
Okay.
Okay, would you please tell us how you got involved with this project and how you came about with these plans?
The Dakotas approached me, I've known them for many years, I've done other projects for them, personal projects, their own home, and they approached me to say that they had bought this property, and if I could please design them a two-family house for the property.
So they never discussed with you rehabilitating the current property?
No,
Okay.
She wasn't in it.
Go ahead.
no, I was going to say, knowing how George usually does things, he probably would have done it without an architect and just, got a permit from the town without an architect. Anyways, what I did is I designed a two-family house for the property. Let me just quickly bring up a couple items that were brought up at testimony for Mr. Tribota while they're still fresh. And one of them was a major issue was the size of the lot and the undersize of the lot. As you can take a look at the 200-foot area map on the upper left-hand corner of the drawings, you can see that most of the lots in the area are very, very small. The subject lot is right in the middle and it's darkened, and that lot is 2855 square feet. According to Zillow, which is the, not the best source, but they're pretty close. They give a square footage of the lots, and I'll tell you what the lots adjacent are, and you'll be able to tell that proportionately they're very similar.
So what hat do you have on right now?
I have my planner's hat on right
Okay,
now.
so you're testifying as a planner.
Yes.
Okay.
The lot adjacent to
What's on
the
each of
west,
these lots as you bring them up?
and that's what I'm going to tell you also.
So why don't we do that as you go along with each lot?
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, the lot adjacent to the west is a one-family house, and that lot is approximately 3,000 square feet. The lot to the east is a one-family house and approximately 3,000 square feet.
That's toward Washington Avenue you're talking about.
Yeah.
In other words,
Yes.
to the right of the property.
To the right of the property.
Okay.
To the left of the property, we have a four-family house, and that piece of property, according to Zillow, is 4,548 square feet. So that is undersized also, and it has a four-family on it. The next property over is multifamily. The next property to the east is multifamily, and that appeared to be a four-family house. And this is from when I had driven up and down the street, counting mailboxes basically on the outside of the house to get an idea of how many units were in each of the buildings. That property is almost 6,100 square feet. Zillow says it's 6,098, and that's a four-family. The next two properties are one-family houses, and they're 2,600 square feet and 3,100 square feet. The property to the far left, which is looked to be a six-family house on a very tight piece of property, was about 3,200 square feet, and that would be the second house from the corner.
Can I ask you
on
a
the left.
question? Is there any indication of when these houses were built?
All about the same time that this house was built, which I imagine the turn of the century.
Okay, so,
According to
The
the,
turn of
Oh.
the 20th century, from the
Yes.
19th.
Except for four larger developments. One would be the much larger piece of property, sort of the flag-shaped property that you can see on the map.
Yes.
That looks like it was done in about the 60s, maybe the
How big
house.
is the lot?
I don't know, but I would guess from just general, it may be about 15,000 square feet, but it has, I believe, 48 units on it. It's a three-story, multi-building, very dense apartment.
if I just may add one thing.
Yeah.
According to the Belleville property tax records, the three single-family homes, the applicant's home and the two to the immediate east, were built in 1892.
Okay, so turn of the century is a good
Plus, I
guess.
just wanted to add one thing. You said earlier that there's a larger home to the west of the subject property.
Yes.
According to the Belleville property tax records, that's zoned right now or classified as a three-family. I think you said it was a four-family.
Oh, I saw four mailboxes. Okay, so that's
All right, well,
why.
it's all right, that's another, something.
So
we
maybe
can go
there's-
down the road.
Maybe there's something illegally going on.
No, that's where the newspaper gets delivered. So, like I said, that's the only way I could sort of figure. But as I was saying, there's four properties that seem to be built much later than the turn of the 20th century. The property just to the west looks like it was built, I want to say, in the 60s. And there are two 8 families to the far east on the corner, and those properties are approximately 5,000 square foot each, and they're 8-family homes. So it just goes to
Well,
show that the neighborhood is all undersized lots. Many of them are multifamily and still undersized lots, so that this is not that far out of the way to have a 2-family in an undersized lot in this neighborhood.
And that's your planning, opinion.
Yes, that is my opinion.
Okay, and so I'm gonna assume that since you made that statement, you know what they were zoned for when they were built.
No.
Okay, that's it. That's the question. Because that zone has changed multiple times over the years. So to make that assessment, without even knowing what they were zoned for during that time, because at one time, we were 25 units per acre. Did you know that?
I wouldn't be surprised.
And now we're down to 12.
Now we're 12.
But the other thing too is that this house would be consistent with the other houses in the neighborhood in terms of lot size and the 2-family
So
homes.
why even bother changing the zoning then? If it's, if everybody has, high rises that are, over densified, we put more high rises, right?
Well-
That's your analogy.
If this lot is almost 3,000 square feet, correct? Oh, no, just,
I answered your question.
no, 3,000 square feet, and we're 43,560, that's 15, that's 30 houses an acre. So, though it is undersized, it's not that far off of 25.
It's over whatever we ever had, at our highest that we know of.
Which was 25.
When they made a zoning
Which
law
was
in Belleville, it was
25.
25 units an acre, so that's even higher than we ever had.
Right, and
And you didn't even know what it was zoned for. It could have been even higher, because Bonnie
Well,
talked about.
before it was 25 an acre was higher, yes, actually, there was no limit.
Right, there was
And
no
that's why
limit.
some of the houses were built.
So my
The
point
old
is, you're asking, without even knowing what the zone was back then, and, we usually, believe it or not, most people don't believe, we kind of are a board that knows, or at least investigates, as you can see, as my associate did, when things were built and what the zone was at the time they were built.
well, if we go to one of the more modern buildings, which would be the property directly to the west, and let's go by tax records and say there's only 3 units in the building and the 4 mailboxes for the newspaper, and that lot is 4,500 square feet,
And you're
that
saying-
means that has a density of 30 units
and
per
you're
acre
saying that was
also.
built in the 60s.
Yes, it appears to be built in the 60s. You may be able to,
1963.
okay, good guess.
So my point is, we don't know what the zone was in the 60s.
I understand that 100%, but what I'm saying is that
I'm
that the
really not sure.
zoning, that the density is consistent with other homes in the neighborhood, even some newer homes in the neighborhood.
I'm glad you mentioned that word, density. Because the town feels that this town is too densified.
Right.
That's why it lowered it from 25, I believe it went to 16 or 18, and
Right.
then it went down to 12. They still felt there was too much density in the town. And that's what we're working on now. And technically, when you mention something like that this is almost 3,000 square feet, which it's not, it's about 2,800, I believe. The minimum requirement for a 1-family is 4,000 square feet in Belleville, no matter which zone.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, this
It's
zone is.
4,000. There's 2 1-family zones. One is for 4,000 square feet, which is usually 40 by 100, and one is for 5,000 square feet, which is usually 50 by 100. 2 different 1-family zones in the town. But the lowest is 40 by 100 or 4,000 square feet. Whether it's
Yes.
irregular or not, it's still 4,000 square feet.
I understand that.
Okay.
But as I was saying, in my professional opinion, that this neighborhood, which does border Newark, you've got,
What does that got to do with it?
no, what I'm saying is, you've got the park right across from you, so it's a unique neighborhood, that it's not, because because Mill Street is a fairly busy street, that it can handle the increased density.
Really?
Okay,
I'm glad that's your opinion.
next.
Yeah, are two-family homes permitted in this zone?
Yes,
And is that the Belleville zoning ordinance that says that they can build two families in this zone
yes,
without getting a variance?
yes.
Well, no.
No,
Whoa, whoa,
no.
whoa!
Without getting a use variance?
Really?
A use
Use variance, we didn't say that.
You said
But you
No, if
still
the
need a
lot is-
variance if you don't meet the minimum requirements for
That's
two-family, which I believe is 50 by 100. Am I right, Mr. Di Lorenzo?
Yes, it's 5,000 square feet.
Thank you.
That's why
Let's
we're
get
here.
that straight.
Without getting a use variance, provided that you meet all the other bulk requirements.
Yes,
And your testimony is that a two-family house in this neighborhood would conform to the other properties in the neighborhood, is that right?
conform isn't exactly the word that I would use. I think it would fit into the neighborhood because there are other homes of similar size lots that are two-family and three-family homes.
And if the zoning for the town of Belleville is that two-family homes are permitted in this area, would a two-family home advance the zoning objectives of the town of Belleville's master plan?
Have you read it? Have you read about the town?
No,
Okay, thank you.
I didn't ask
Well,
that
you would know,
question.
I mean,
I was
well, the
waiting for
truth
her
How
is,
could
you
she answer
notice
the
I
question if she hasn't
hesitated
read the
because-
master
I
plan?
know that, that's why I appreciate your honesty, I really do.
I mean, let's,
Assuming that a zone permits two-family houses, would a two-family house be presumed to be in accordance with what the zoning plan was designed to do?
yes,
If it was a 5,000 square foot
Right.
lot.
Yes.
Exactly. If it was a 5,000 square foot lot.
Well, again, presumably, when Belleville made...
You're gonna tell me that our master plan says, well, no matter what the size of the lot is, because it's zoned for two-family, you can build a two-family. That's what you're saying. And that, if that was true, you wouldn't be before this board.
And that's why that's not what I'm saying.
Well, then what are you saying?
I'm saying it's a permitted use
Yes.
that the town of Belleville, when they made their zoning ordinance, said, you can put two-family houses here without going for a use variance.
A use variance.
Right? If you need bulk variances, you have to come and meet
Well,
a whole nother
Well,
standard.
can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Under the law,
Yeah.
can the town say you need a use variance for a one or two family? No. Am I correct?
No, they could if they made it a zone for a one-family house. If
No,
it's
no,
a
no,
one-family
no,
zone,
no, listen to me, listen to me. You know, you're playing words with me. You said a two-family zone, now you want to change it to a one-family zone. Can the town pass an ordinance that says you can use a D variance in a two-family zone for a two-family house if the lot's undersized? Yes or no? The town doesn't have that power, does it? No.
I'm confused.
Oh, now you're confused. I'm glad you confuse everybody else. We might as well confuse you.
I'm not trying to confuse you.
What this boils down to is no one has ever said you need a use variance, a D variance for a two-family house on this lot in this zone. No
Or
question.
one family.
No question, and two families are permitted. Why you're here is because the lot is 2,855 square feet, and if you had a 5,000 or more square foot lot and had no bulk variances, you can be here at all, you just build your two-family. But the lot is significantly undersized, so you don't need a use variance, but you need bulk variances because the lot is way under the minimum, and that's why we're here. I mean, there's a lot
Agreed.
going on.
Let me ask you another question. If you knock this house down and you only wanted to replace it with a one family, you would still have to come before this board, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
Thank you, because it's undersized. The lot is
Absolutely.
undersized.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
He said that, he did say
Well, I
that.
want to make sure there's no confusion.
I think what I'm trying to make a clarification, it seems like a lot of the concerns I'm hearing are because of a one versus a two. I'm not here to ask for a D variance to put a
We know
two-family
that.
house. Okay, I'm just
Let's
saying.
keep the D variances out of
All right,
this.
so,
Never an issue.
okay. The bulk variances have standards of proof that have to be made in order to proceed. And a lot of those deal with hardships, which are created by undersized lots and unique shapes and sizes of
We
properties.
deal with them all the time.
Okay, so I guess I'm concerned that the project is kind of being held to a two-family
Standards,
standard variance, like a D variance
Why
type
shouldn't it be?
of question. Because as I read the zoning, and your counsel can advise you, if it's a permitted use, and you can prove a hardship, and you can prove the positive and negative.
flip-flop it back and forth. You go, because originally, hardship was nothing to do with this. Because when you have a hardship, like, okay, like for example, which we had a case here, which I was on the fence with, and I'll tell you, some agree with me, some don't. It was a vacant lot in a two-family zone, all right? And it had similar size restrictions, okay? I understand the point that he's talking about. However, I couldn't, the two-family was approved, but here's the point. The point was, that was a vacant lot. Your client testified, and he bought it as a one-family. He knew it was a one-family. He was buying it for his mother-in-law, and that's that. Unless you're telling me that's all hogwash now, right? And then he only planned to knock it down to make a two-family. And look, that's different. That's the risk that he runs. We don't run that risk. He runs that risk.
It's called let the buyer beware.
Buyer beware, and he knew when he was buying. He did no inspection, and he looks like a pretty smart guy.
Sometimes.
I believe me.
We all make mistakes.
Yeah.
Well,
You know.
I
But
guess,
you understand what I'm saying?
How many properties does your applicant have? Because that came up. She brought it up. She said she's handled different things for him. So how many properties are we talking about that they own?
His house.
Only his house?
Well, they had another house I put an addition on too. I did a new house for them,
Right.
and then an addition.
I don't care.
Oh.
I don't care.
I mean, it's been residential.
Yeah, it's all
Anybody has
my
it,
house.
like that.
It's all yours. It's not adding to another apartment.
No.
No,
Okay.
I don't care. God bless him. I
But
don't care if it's
he
house.
did a couple of things on my house.
I don't care.
so I'll make my arguments at the end of it, if I get to the testimony. So, would you go on and let me just be clear for the record. So it's your professional opinion that putting a two-family house on this lot, even though it's undersized, would not be detrimental to the zoning purposes of the Belleville zoning master plan?
of the ordinance, yes.
Okay.
So, I may ask you, counsel. So the question was, her testimony is that she doesn't feel it's detrimental to the Belleville, the scope and intent of the master plan.
No, I said ordinance, I corrected it.
So you're not talking about the master
I
plan.
said
She hadn't
ordinance.
read the master plan.
Right, so
And
we-
I corrected
right,
his
we're
question.
We're not talking about the master plan anymore.
But of the Belleville zoning ordinance?
Yes,
And how about the neighborhood?
and the
Public
neighborhood.
good being the neighborhood.
And the public good of being the neighborhood, correct.
Well,
Now you made all
I
these
will-
plans,
Well, I'm not
correct?
done. I'm not done.
Oh, I thought you were finished.
No, I'm not done.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, I'm just trying to understand, I am getting confused here. So, as a planner, right,
Yes,
you don't think it's gonna have any impact on the neighborhood because other houses in this neighborhood, is this like this?
I do think there'll be a definite impact on the neighborhood, and I think it'll be all positive, because the house that is there now is not in great shape. It is 4 inches from the property
I
line.
noticed.
And we are putting the new building,
Agreed.
so
agree.
I do not think that this will have a detrimental impact on the neighborhood. I think that this new house will have a very definite positive impact. It has off-street parking, provided 2 spaces for each unit. So I think that there's only good that could come, no detriment.
So I'll ask you a question then. So with the positive criteria that this two-family can bring, right?
Yes.
Could a one-family bring the same?
No, I think in the future, and let me tell you why.
You know, you're earning your money tonight, man.
What do I say? No. What I was going to say.
Explain that one.
In the future, and, you know, Betty's mother's a lovely woman, but she's an elderly woman.
She lives to be 150.
Exactly, but she probably won't. So this apartment building will also generate apartments in town, so additional housing.
Does Belleville need them?
I think any community needs
And you
good
haven't read
apartments.
Belleville. We have plenty of,
We're overloaded with housing.
Right, so that's not an accurate assessment.
Is that really, I have
They have
never
a
heard that.
7% vacancy rate. It was just announced at one of the last
Because
meetings.
I've done a number of
We're just
rehabs in town, and they have been swiped up immediately.
We have so many foreclosures, it's ridiculous.
Well, foreclosures are a different vacancy than something habitable and in good shape. This is considered a vacancy also
We have
now.
foreclosures that are in good shape. It's just that the person couldn't afford to pay for them.
Yeah, but that's different than having,
All I'm saying is, we have a 7% vacancy rate that was announced. Okay, now I believe a 7% vacancy rate is a decent high rate. To
but
have
is
that
it
much-
for all new, it may be for single-family residents versus apartments, because,
No,
let me just finish what I'm gonna say. And this is true.
You have no data.
Yes, I do. I have the 36 units that are just a couple houses away. Went and spoke to the super because I wanted to find out how many units are there. And when I came up to him, I didn't want to say, hey, we want to put a two-family, a few houses. I said, hey, tell me about the building. How many apartments do you have? Lady, we have a waiting list. We don't have any apartments available. And the Tabotas were with me when we did it.
I believe you.
So, a vacancy rate of single-family homes, I think, is a little bit different.
We weren't talking about single family. This was a study that was just put into the,
Well,
I believe it was.
all I know
I
in
believe
this neighborhood,
Well, you gotta talk to that super, because let me tell you, he says, you know, they have a waiting list.
Well, maybe everybody likes his place, and maybe the rents
It's not
are
that pretty.
reasonable, I don't
Well,
know.
Now,
what
let me
I'm
tell
saying
you, it's
is,
not that
but
pretty,
a
it's right
two-
around the corner.
but a two-family, but I'm saying, but the rentable housing, if you have a zero vacancy rate on the biggest building on the block, I think that that's a real positive, to have additional
No,
rental housing.
I don't have an argument with that. I'm just saying that, I don't, if you look at the numbers of how many multiple families Belleville has in apartments versus other towns, we're way up. We have a lot. We have a lot. And I'm sure, if you had some spare time, take a peek.
I'm aware, I mean, I'm aware of
And
the,
you know I'm not lying.
no, and I'm not, of course, accusing you. I'm just saying that in this neighborhood, I don't think that there's, I think there's a need for rentables, just in lieu of the fact that the building 3 houses down, or 3 lots down, is the biggest one in the area, and it's packed.
I believe you.
Let me go a little bit further to the rest of my testimony in terms of the hardship and the size of the lot and the shape of the lot. Excuse me. The existing lot, as I had testified to before, is 2855 square feet. The zone requires 5,000 square feet. So the existing lot is existing non-conforming and undersized. This is one of our hardships. The narrowness of the lot, typically 50 feet would be the width of a 5,000 square foot lot in this area. And this lot is 35.11 feet. So it is a narrow lot also, which is another hardship of being existing non-conforming. The existing house is 4 inches from the property line. We are proposing the new house to be 3 feet and 5 feet from the property line.
Which I love. I agree with that. My question to you, you're saying that's a hardship, right?
Well, the hardship goes with the shape and the size of the property, so,
But isn't it exacerbated by building a 2 over a 1?
not necessarily, because I would still be here to do
I
a
know,
one,
but you're
to a one.
If you did a one, you could probably comply with the side yards of our ordinance.
I don't think so,
Because you wouldn't have to have it so big. To have 2 families with 3 bedrooms in each unit, it would have to be way bigger than 1 family with 3 bedrooms. Because you would have 2 floors.
yes.
Thank you. So you could comply with some of our requirements that would not be necessary if you didn't have a 2-family. The side yards would match, you would have enough to meet the
Well,
ordinance.
the side yards would still be very difficult because the lot narrows up quite a bit to 21 feet in the back, which means that it would,
Would
the
only be
house-
21 feet wide, or you have a 21-foot backyard? What am I
no,
seeing on this
21
map?
feet is how wide the lot is in the back.
In the back.
It's sort of a pie shaped,
I see the fire shape.
so,
But I'm seeing a line that says 21.2 inches.
that happens to be the rear yard setback
That's what I'm
also.
talking about.
Both of them happen to be 21, 2 feet.
21 by 21?
Yeah, the backyard is 21 by 21, basically. So I still think it would be very difficult to do a 1-family house with no variances on this property, so we would be back here for a 1-family too.
Oh, no, you would definitely be here for 1
We
family.
don't
We're arguing
we
that.
don't disagree.
We're not disputing that, we're just saying that the building would probably be smaller, that's all we're saying. The lot coverage would be less,
The truth is, this building could be a little bit smaller too.
but it would be much smaller if you had a 1-family. Even if you had 4 bedrooms,
Yeah,
instead of 3.
right now,
Instead of 6, I mean. Yeah.
the square footage of this entire building is 2286. Which is not a big, even for a 1-family house, 2,200 square feet is not monster. I mean, it's a nice size house. But
A nice cozy small house is about 1,500 to 1,800 square feet.
that's what I live in.
Ah!
But
That's a 1-family?
it's a 1-family.
Thank you.
But
Is it
But I
an
have no
undersized lot?
children
Let her
home.
finish.
But I have no children home. And the
Yes,
truth is, it's a 2-bedroom house. So,
but this was made for his mother. He bought this for his mother.
but she's gonna need a caretaker.
Caretaker does not mean a bunch of children. Caretaker is a caretaker.
Comes with the package.
You wanna know
Well,
something? I
Then
really,
you know what? You shouldn't have bought it for your mother if you knew you were gonna have to take everybody else along.
Well, I mean, that was one of the reasons why I bought it, you know.
Let's
I
go.
mean, and
How many
also-
bedrooms does this house have the way it is?
2.
It's a
No.
2-bedroom house?
3.
I would imagine,
2.5, yeah, 2.5. It's almost like 3.
3 bedrooms?
yeah, there's that little, probably that little nursery room that's typical.
Could I ask one question, just as a continuation of what our chairman was asking? Just hypothetically, if the intention of this project is to support mother, sister-in-law, and 3 children, would it make more sense to have a 1-family home, have 4 or 5 bedrooms, and therefore not have to duplicate, have 2 kitchens, 4 bathrooms? It seems to me that if this was a 1-family home, and if you had the requisite or the accommodating number of 1 living room, 1 kitchen, etc., the occupants would have more livable space to themselves.
It makes sense in a lot of ways what you're saying, but the reality of life is, would you wanna live with your mother all the time?
Yes.
Well, then she shouldn't be taking care of her.
No, there's a difference between
Yes.
being a caregiver of somebody who is a fully functional person. My mother has made it very, very clear that she won't move in with us.
I really don't think that's
No, but what I'm saying is,
We
but
don't-
what
we
you're
don't make
saying
those
makes
decisions.
perfect sense, but
We don't make those
it doesn't necessarily work in real life.
I get up.
Ma'am, also a caretaker could come there during the day and take care of her and go home at night.
Sure, we don't need to.
We don't make those decisions.
You know, I mean, yeah, but that's what they're trying to show as a justification for
No,
this.
listen, we only talk about the law as applies to.
Also, I have one other question on these plans, which
Yes.
you haven't gotten to.
I know, I haven't.
There's a nice big space on the ground floor behind the garage, a gigantic space. You could fit another apartment there.
Well, that's not our intention at all.
Oh, I'm just saying, I mean, it's a large piece of, large room.
Little fish, please.
Go ahead.
Okay, you,
Shall I,
all right,
let me,
why don't you proceed, either finish your planning testimony and then go to the architect do it, or?
Yeah, Mr. Milano will not interrupt you anymore.
you're fine. As I had stated before, I do not feel that this two-family in this neighborhood with the homes that surround this specific property would be a detriment, it would be an improvement, and I think it could fit in very well in this neighborhood. Let me just discuss with you the architectural plans. What we are doing is a two-family home.
Go ahead, ma'am, I'm sorry.
Two-family home with a two-car garage below, and then it also has two-car parking space in front of the garages and the driveway. The house will have a single entrance and then go to a common stair area that will bring you into the first floor apartment. It is a 3-bedroom apartment. The bedrooms are 10 by 10, 9 by 10 and a half, and 11 by 15 and a half. And it has 2 bathrooms, a 4 by 10 master bath, a 6 by 4 walk-in closet, and then a 10-foot by approximately 5-foot bathroom. And then there is an open kitchen, living room area. The dinette would be then incorporated into the living room. If one of the options that we did discuss with this plan, and this was something that, depending if or when the Tabota's mother-in-law wanted to, we had also discussed deleting one of the bedrooms on the first floor and letting her have a bigger living room area, because right now I have both kitchen, living room, dining room in a space of 15 by 22. And if we deleted this bedroom, she would then have a small dining area or an area to be able to entertain friends or the rest of family. So then the first unit would be, I should say, the first floor unit would be a 2-bedroom unit, and the second floor would stay a 3-bedroom unit. But at this point, this is how we had designed the house. Each of these units are approximately 1,100 square feet. So they're not real big units, but they're very efficient 3-bedroom units.
You mentioned just a moment ago that each unit is about 1,100 square feet.
Yes.
I believe within the last year or so, our council passed an ordinance requiring that there be at least 400 square feet per occupant of the structure. So assuming there are 3 bedrooms in each unit, if you do the quick math, it seems that you would need at least 1,200 square feet per apartment to comply with that ordinance. If you're at 1,100, I think you're at least 100 feet below what the new ordinances mandate.
Then this would be an additional variance that we would require.
No, that's not a value.
I think Mr. Di Lorenzo can confirm that, but I believe last year the...
It's not in the zoning ordinance. That's a separate property maintenance ordinance. That's not in the zoning ordinance. It had nothing to do with the zoning board. And the building permits would supersede all that too.
What's the dimensions of the garage? Is a 16-foot wide opening?
Yes,
And then what's the depth of where you can park? There's a door,
It's,
it's 23 feet, but what is,
it's 20 feet on the right side, and it's 23 feet on the left.
do you think that angle of the, see how it comes in, does that make that left space kind of a little difficult,
It'll be a little tight, yes.
a little tight?
The only advantage is a typical car is only about 16 feet. So the car would not be going to the full end, it would be going to about here, where I'm about a foot or so in. And I did work it out that if you draw a line from the driveway, from the garage door up, that you should be able to go straight up within the 16 feet. At a 16-foot length for a car, which would be about 2/3 of the way into the garage.
Assuming it's a 16-foot car, okay?
Well, that's a pretty standard, there's smaller cars, there's bigger cars.
Yes, Mr. Mafucci.
I have a number of questions.
Okay,
The attic, what is the clearance from the floor up to the peak, and how does somebody access it? I don't see it on the diagram.
the clearance to the peak is approximately 10 feet. And the attic access would be through a hatch or a pull-down stair. We are not intending to have the stair go up to the attic.
For the second floor apartment only.
For the second floor apartment only.
The driveway from the inside of the sidewalk to the house is 21 feet? approximately?
Yes,
But it used to be 25 feet?
yes. The ordinance requires 20 feet.
The rear yard is going to be smaller than the other?
Yes,
And the building coverage is increased quite a bit? 500 square feet or so?
yes, the building coverage has increased, but the impervious coverage of the lot has decreased. Because most of the lot is paved right now, and what we would be doing is pulling up a lot of that pavement. So our impervious coverage would decrease.
The next one is just curious type question. On A1,
Yes,
the rear view of the house, the vertical rectangles, are they windows?
they are because the house is on the diagonal. So you're looking at a plane that's a diagonal, so you're just looking at the sliver of the windows.
Okay.
The size of the windows, looking at it perpendicular to the angle, is that big.
Okay, because I couldn't figure out what they were.
Does that make sense?
Yes, and there are absolutely no windows on the lowest level, correct?
Correct.
And both apartments have access from the garage to
Yes.
the home. Oh, on the very first sheet, they were talking about the number of feet per square inch, I think that was all. Where's the deck? They mentioned a deck.
Is it turn? bit to make it more interesting.
Oh, it's really interesting.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's not on the first sheet, I apologize, it's on A1, upper right.
A1,
Upper right hand, dimensions exempt.
oh, those are design loads, those are UCC information that I put on every drawing. No, there's not, but there is a small landing in the back, for the back porch.
That was it, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
may I ask you a question?
Either two.
They're not big questions. They're not fat questions, they're very small.
Why are you speaking to the fact?
So, the question is, the garage is the only access to the basement for both apartments?
No, there's a stairwell that also leads
To the basement
to the basement
for both apartments?
for both apartments.
Is there a private entrance? So the only exit from each apartment is the front entrance, the rear entrance
Yes,
to both apartments?
yes.
And out of curiosity, how many steps up is it to the first floor?
14.
To the first floor?
Yes, because we've got a
Yeah, go on.
a full story.
So, I don't know the condition of your mother-in-law. Is 14 steps not an issue?
No, I mean, she's able to walk.
I don't know, I'm asking. So usually when you have, you know, an elderly person, I'll speak to my mom, who's about 14 steps, it's a deal breaker, can't do it. Maybe 3, 4, but not 14. That's why I'm asking you.
Right.
So 14 steps is not a problem, right?
No, I
You
mean,
wanna-
not down, you
You
know,
want to know
maybe
something?
down
We
the road,
had
it might.
investigated burying half of the basement and then having the
estimate?
drive, no, I'm just saying, and having the driveway slope in. And we really felt it'd be such a nightmare with drainage and everything else that we made the value judgment. No, I'm just saying,
I'm not losing sight of what the proposed intention was here. It was for the mother-in-law.
no, and it,
And usually an elderly woman can't do 14 steps. That's all I'm saying. I'm not, nothing past that. That's all. Next. I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
She's elderly, but she's not like 90 or anything like that.
Okay, any other
I think she's like
questions?
70, what is she, 75?
Are you done with testimony, or are we doing more?
if there were any additional questions?
Any other questions by members of the board? None? Any questions by members of the public? Yes, come right down the aisle. Of the witness based upon testimony given.
Vince Franklin, Company. Mr. Taylor, I want to speak to your testimony as a planner.
Yes,
You stated all those other properties in the immediate vicinity of the subject property. And you guessed that, is it normal as a planner when you're testifying on the oath to say, it appears this was built, or I think this was built, or it may have been built, without having exact knowledge of when these things were built?
yes, and let me tell you why. Because something that was built at the turn of the century, if you look up records, the tax records, I believe, that Mr. Sheldon looked up said the house was built in 1892. But it could very well have been built in 1890 and not hit the tax rolls for 2 years, or it might have had a major renovation. The records, unless I was building it, I don't know the exact date it was built. There's other times that I've seen that I know a date a house was built because I designed it 35 years ago, and I'll look into tax records and they'll say that the house was built 5 years later, and I know that it wasn't. So for me to guess, at my best knowledge, being an architect and a planner, I've been an architect for 35 years, I've been doing this for 35 years, just as I guessed that the building next door was built in the 60s, it was built in 1963. I was actually a little proud of myself because I guessed well. So, yes, it's very typical. No, he said 63. So yes, it is very typical. For me to give you an exact date, no. To give you a general idea of when something was built, absolutely, as a planner.
Did you go east of that property, toward Washington Avenue, and look at the properties?
Yes, I did, and I said that they were one families, and we had a 2,600 square foot lot. Another one family was 3101 square feet. So yes, I did.
This address is 164
Yes, it
Mill
is.
Street.
Yes,
Did you look at 142 Mill Street?
I'll tell you
Which
in
is
a
right.
Yes, that's an 8 family on the
And
corner.
how many parking spaces does that apartment have?
I don't know.
I worked for that landlord. There's 8 apartments, 1 parking space. Is that good planning?
No, but I didn't build that or design it.
I-
But my
well, I
property
asked
has 4 parking spaces.
The reason I'm bringing this up is
Yeah.
you brought all those other properties right next door to 142. You know how many apartments are in
I
there?
think there's 6, aren't there?
No, I think there's a little more.
Oh, I
There's
found,
at- There's
I
at
saw-
least 8, and there might be some illegal.
oh, okay, I saw
You know
6
how many parking
mailboxes.
spaces they have?
I don't think they have any, do they?
Right, well, so as a planner, I'm asking you, is that good planning?
Not particular,
those-
but I don't know what the ordinance was at the time. The ordinance might have said that on-street parking was sufficient for multifamily on Mill Street. Right now, the ordinance says that I need to have 2 parking spaces per unit, and I provided 2 parking spaces per unit.
Well, the reason I brought up those other properties, because you brought up other properties.
Only for square footage and
Right, so, but as
units.
a plan, those other properties on that same street, very close to this property, are not good planning.
Only in regards to parking. There is public transportation very, very close. I notice a lot of people waiting for the bus on Mill Street, and Washington is very close. So I can imagine when those buildings were built, that they were considered good planning because of the amount of public transportation, which is excellent in Belleville. So when they were built, people didn't have as many cars, and they may not need it. I would imagine that many of the people in those apartments may not have cars either.
Thank you, you made the point I was going to make. When they were built, there wasn't the need for all this parking.
Yes.
Thank you. And there's one other thing, I just want to reiterate, you said that it's not customary, people don't want to live with their mother or their father.
No, I didn't mean it that way.
Because my mother-in-law died, and we
Mr. Ray,
took her
tell
my
me, now you get
father-in-law
into
for 18
the
years.
testimony.
Look, my parents took in my grandmother for 10 years too. But I'm just saying, when you have a family with children, and you're a caretaker for a woman who's 75, she's not infirm. I know from my experience, 75-year-old women are very opinionated and still want to be on their own, but a lot of times they still need help and don't want to admit it.
I got one final question. You got 6 bedrooms on this property. As a planner, what do you estimate number of school children would be?
Could be 4 to 6.
Thank you.
Any other testimony? Any other questions by members of the public? Any additional questions by members of the board? Okay. So do you wish to sum up? Wait a minute, wait one more thing. Any testimony by members of the public? Yes, come right back up.
Mr. Frank Antoni, why don't you raise your right hand, please? Regarding this matter, do you swear that any comments you may make should be the truth?
I do.
Okay.
Once again, I appear before you a lot because I want to respect the density of our town. We're overwhelmed with congested housing. Right on my block, I can tell Mr. Di Lorenzo and council, I know of at least 7 illegal apartments. So that's illegal apartments. We can't afford not to respect our zoning ordinance anymore. This is double, you need 5,000 square feet for a two-family house. This is just a little more than half of that. It's not conducive to it. Our schools are overcrowded, and planning experts said it could produce another 4 to 6, or maybe more. It could produce 8, because you have 2 3-bedroom apartments. Mom and dad live in 1 bedroom, 2 children each of the other. That's 4 other bedrooms, that's 8 children to possibly do it. We can't afford it. We can't afford to disregard our zoning ordinance any longer. So I hope you will consider this, and I just want to follow up. It's not only that my wife and I took in my father-in-law for 8 years. That's going to what she said. My mom passed away, and my sister took in my 89-year-old father until he died. And my aunt took in her mother for 30 years, took care of her. So there is precedent that they will take care of her. And the only reason I bring that up is to counter the planner and architect's argument and all that. But please, I ask you again, respect our zoning ordinance. Thank you.
I got one question. Want to take my mother-in-law in? Want to take my mother-in-law in? Take care of her.
Man, we take anybody. I have 3 adopted children. My
I
neighbor, I'm doing
understand.
That's not
Bring her, we're
That's
glad
not,
to
you
help
talk to
her
that,
out.
you make those arrangements privately.
No, I know, Johnny.
Okay. Do you, oh, by the way, you do have a right to cross-examine the witness if you want. No?
Somebody spoke very, very
Does
well.
any of the board members have questions of Mr. Frantantoni? No. Any other members of the public wish to give testimony? No. Okay, do you wish to sum up, sir?
Yes, if I may. We spent a lot of time tonight talking about mother-in-laws and reasons for doing things. But as some of the board pointed out correctly, things are going to change. In the future, this board is going to be stuck with whatever approval they give. Meaning that if you approve a 2-family, you can't rely on Mr. Kubota and his mother-in-law being there forever. We know at some point they're going to leave. So that was offered as to allow you to understand what Mr. Kubota was trying to do. And what you heard is, and just as I said, things change. They changed on Mr. Kubota. He had an idea in his head. When he got in there, it turned out to be a different situation than he thought. Couldn't use it the way he wanted to. Wanted to try to make it the best he could to suit his uses, and also what makes sense. You have a property where it is zoned for 2. I didn't make those rules. You guys didn't make those rules. Somebody in Belleville made the zoning map and said 2 families are okay here. So it's permitted. It's foreseen that 2 families are going to be in this area. The lot was created years ago. All these lots they're in this area, they're all irregular, they're all undersized. That's what happens when you have an older town. He's not trying to do something that's against the ordinance. He's trying to use ordinance. He's not trying to put a use in here that's not permitted. The testimony of the planner was that this will not be a detriment to the neighborhood. It will be, in fact, she feels it will be a positive to the neighborhood. You will have, we can have different opinions of how that house looks right now, but I think we can all agree that were this project built, it's going to look better than it does now. You're going to have sufficient parking. The bulk variances, no matter what you build there, it's a 1-family or 2, you can't comply with the ordinance with this piece of property. It's not possible. So there has to be variances granted, and as Chairman pointed out, something has to be allowed to be built. You can't foreclose the use altogether. So really what we come down here, and this is where I think I have a little bit of a legal disagreement with some of you, but we come down to whether or not it's smart to put a 2-family versus a 1-family on this lot. And when I look at the ordinance, and your council can advise you, and you're proposing a permitted use, and you have reasons why you can't comply with the bulk variances, that's what the zoning ordinance is designed to do. The variance process is designed to allow you to come to a board, someone like Mr. Kubota, to come to the board and say, I've got this piece of property, I want to do something that the town says I'm allowed to do. I'm allowed to put a two-family. I can't build it because of the shape and size of this lot. So when we establish through testimony that the lot won't allow compliance with the bulk ordinances, we've met the hardship requirements that are necessary to get a variance approved. And when the planner testifies that this will not negatively impact the neighborhood and that it is consistent with the other houses in the neighborhood, we've met the negative criteria that we are required to get a variance approved. So I would ask, and also you're maximizing the use of the property within what the town has said we can do, or anyone can do in this part of town. We can argue that maybe there shouldn't be any more two families in Belleville. Maybe you're over dense. But right now, this is the ordinance, and it'll change. It changed before, it'll change again. But right now, this is something that's permitted. And I think if we can establish that we have reasons why we can't comply with the bulk, which I think we all agree there are existing, and we have testimony that it's not going to be a negative in the neighborhood. In fact, it's going to be a positive. It's the only testimony that you have. This variance can be granted and comply with the intent of the zoning use permissions. And so you're respecting the ordinance. You're not putting a 3 or 4 family in the zone where it doesn't belong. You're putting a 2-family in a 2-family zone. And we've established the negative criteria and the positive criteria, which is our obligation to do to the board. So if there's any, I know that there are some, we're open to listen to the board, take direction from the board. There are things the architect indicated that we can downsize the project a little bit. I think to make this work, Mr. Taboto's may have some flexibility on maybe reducing the footprint, but going from accepting a 1-family, I don't think it would be something that you'd be able to ask permission for. They can still rather have the 2, and but I certainly be willing to listen to any suggestions of how we can alter the project that might make it more acceptable. I've heard people say make it a 1-family, but if there's a way that the board would be more comfortable with the 2, we certainly would open to suggestions to modify the plans.
Is it done?
Unless the board has any comments or
I don't have any
questions.
suggestions. It's not my job to make suggestions.
Well, in other, sometimes boards will tell me that they're not comfortable with
I think
this.
I've been pretty out front there.
Well, if you're
They told me
concerned,
to be quiet. I think I've been pretty out front with my suggestions. I think the clients know my suggestions. I think you know my suggestions. Yeah, I've been pretty clear.
well, you've had a lot of criticisms of the project,
Yes,
but
no doubt.
and we've tried to address those criticisms, but it seems like
I
the
don't see
only
it.
way to satisfy at least you
My
as one
concern.
member is to do a 1-family.
Absolutely. I don't deny that because it was your testimony, your client's testimony, and he was looking for a 1-family house to, which I'm really agree with. I commend him because I believe in that. I did that for my own mother. I agree with that. He was looking for a 1-family home to accommodate his mother or mother-in-law. I don't remember which one he said. And I think it's admirable, okay? And if I believe that testimony, which I do, right? Now, the question that we have to ask ourselves as a board,
Why don't we do this first? Let's close the public hearing,
Okay.
If the
If
applicant's
he's
attorney's
done,
done,
someone
we close the public hearing.
No more discussion.
So we don't have a give and take right now. We can then discuss it.
I'm just letting you know, I don't get, I gave my opinion,
Yeah.
let me out there.
Okay.
You know, like, you know,
Well, I would just,
chastisement.
I would just say, I would just address a comment to council that denying a bulk variance where hardships are established and the negative criteria are met because of a, you prefer one use, one permitted use to another permitted use, I think goes beyond the ability of the board.
I think.
Council, that's.
No.
I'm just giving my.
In my view, I think you're overstating your
Right.
case for two reasons. First of all, in addition to establishing hardship, and this is an awkward size, it's a small lot. It's an awkward shaped lot. In addition to your planner saying, the magic words in terms of hardship, there has to be a relation to the purposes of zoning, which is in section 55D-2. You just can't say, the lot's weird, I can't fit in a two-family because of hardship, I win. It has to be related to the purposes of zoning, otherwise you're doing just a personal for these applicants. And second, no board's required to accept line and verse any expert testimony. I mean, I think your witness gave good testimony, but a board's not bound by anyone's testimony. A board can say, I agree with you. A board can say, I don't agree with you, or some partial portion thereof. So just because Ms. Masseo said the positive and negative criteria is met, that doesn't mean it's bound by this board. I mean, he can choose to
Oh, the board is free to do what
weigh
it wants.
and accept it,
Absolutely.
not accept it,
Absolutely.
whatever.
But we have legal arguments that sometimes go,
Yeah, I think, at least Mr. Polano indicated early on some thoughts, some suggestions as to how this might be overcome, but be that as it may, the board's discussion now and
thank you.
okay,
Are we closed?
yes.
We're closed, now you can talk.
No, again, I commend the applicant for the testimony. So we're clear, Mr. Rego, to your point, I don't believe we met the criteria, negative criteria, I really don't.
You're free to,
I really don't, that's my opinion, of course. That being said, I commend the applicant for being straight up on what his intentions were, and I reiterated them before. I want to reiterate them again, but I will, that he was looking for a one-family home. The question you have to ask yourself that, he chose not to get an inspection, not us. And I understand that's the problem. A one-family, I believe, would be conducive to what he's looking to try and do. Is it ideal? Is it my job to make it ideal? My job is to make the balance out the test. And that's what I've done. And so from my perception, I don't think they met the burden of proof. I don't. So it's got nothing to do with, is it a good project? Is he, doing the right? I'm just saying, I don't think they met the burden of proof.
Okay, anybody else want to say anything
Yes,
before
I want to say something.
Yes, Mr.
As a
Montalbano.
building that is in this condition right now, could it be made livable to live in as is, just by altering, making some, a lot of repairs?
You can't talk, the architect can in this place, but she should know if it can be fixed. You're not
She
an
didn't go
expert, she didn't go inside, so she can't even do that.
Yeah.
She can't even do that.
Was she left?
No, she's here, but she
It's
never
in bad-
inspected the
In
inside.
other words, it's in bad, it's in real bad
Maybe
condition.
the buyers should do it.
I don't want to open up
Anything
any
could be
questions.
done, but,
All right,
with $1 million, you can do a lot of things.
we're in discussion, we're not asking them questions. I'll say, I'll add on to Mr. Valano, and here's my opinion on the case. I think two positive things can happen with this application. Well, not with this application, but with this property. One, that the one-family house be rehabilitated. That's one. Two, you can knock down the one family and build another one family in its place and meet, I feel if it's a one family, you could possibly meet everything but the lot size. I think you would be able to make the side yards. Yeah.
Time out. One family undersized lots, if there was one family on it before, come in and build if they meet the requirements, there's different standards for undersized lots.
What do you mean?
There's an ordinance, the zoning ordinance changed, they amended it a few years ago. They had undersized lots, it's 25 by 100. You can build a one-family house if there was one on it already. But there's different standards, they would have to meet bulk standards. Wouldn't have to come back to you if it
It wouldn't have to come back before?
if they met those standards, different standards, there's what's in there now.
That's even better. Then you wouldn't have to come back before.
If they meet the standards, it's a little different, but if they
Well,
have to meet,
can you give me an idea of what the standards are?
there's a different bulk standards, there's 5 or 6 different things.
Smaller?
Might be 35%, 3-foot side yards and all that jazz.
Oh, so it'd be easier.
And less restrictive.
If he meets them, if you don't,
Yeah.
then they come back.
May,
Oh, all right.
may I have a moment to discuss some of the thoughts of my client? And maybe.
I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll do better than that. I'll give you,
Take a break.
we'll have a 10-minute recess.
Thank you.
Okay? Okay, the regular meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment for July 7, 2016, is back in session. And it left off when we talked, so I'll finish it.
Any news,
No, thank you for the opportunity to
Okay.
explain where we were at. I think we're, nothing to add at this point.
Okay.
Nothing to add, okay. What I was saying is, the positive thing for this property would either be to rehabilitate the current property, which is, you have to, it's called caveat emptor, may the buyer beware. If you're gonna go buy a property, go check it out first, that's what you do. If you're looking to buy a property as a one family, and you're checking out a one family, okay, if you want a two, then you should be looking for a two. But as far as I'm concerned, the two most positive things that can happen out of this property is either it being rehabilitated or the building being knocked down and to come back to build a new one family. Now that may require coming before this board, it may not. Depends once the plans are brought to Mr. Di Lorenzo. But I do not see anything positive out of knocking the building down and putting a 2-3-bedroom apartment in each apartment for two families. I see that as a negative, not a positive at all. And I cannot approve something when even the planner, architect, when she mentioned the adjoining properties, or the ones that were undersized like this lot, most of the ones she mentioned were all with one-family homes. So, in my opinion, I cannot go for this application the way it is, I'm sorry. Any other members of the board wish to give any reasons why they're looking for it or against it?
I pretty much agree with you. The hardship was really created when he couldn't, he bought a one-family home, that's what he got. Now that he wants a two-family, I don't buy the hardship anymore. And it's too much for the lot that size.
Anybody else wish to give any statements? Mr. Caruso.
I looked at that property a few times, and I feel that a two-family home will never fit in that property. And I think that a one-family might be the answer, but I'm not sure about that either at this time.
Okay. Any other members wish to give any testimony?
Yeah, everything's been said there.
Okay. Do we have a motion? Anyone wish to give a motion?
I'll make a motion to deny.
Motion to deny by Mr. Mafucci. Do I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Giordano. Clerk, call the roll.
A yes is a denial, is for denial, and no is to approve,
To
basically.
approve. Yes for denial.
Caruso.
Yes is for denial. Caruso.
Yes.
Giordano.
Yes.
Fucci.
Yes.
Montalbano.
Yes.
Shelton.
Yes.
Milano.
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Denied 7-0.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you need that top sheet?
No, I did.
Because it was put into
I'll
evidence.
ask him.
Yeah, keep it here for a little bit.
Yeah, for this time restraint. Motion made by Mr. Milano to adjourn, oh wait, do we have anything to memorialize? Nothing to memorialize, okay, motion made by Mr. Milano to adjourn, seconded by Mr. Caruso. All in favor of adjournment? Aye.